Hello everyone and welcome back. In this video, I'm going to be go over everything I did to study and prepare for the MCAT. I studied for the MCAT for about 5 months and I ended up getting a 520 on the MCAT, which I was really happy with. So this video is just going to be me sharing exactly everything what I did, my guide, and everything else in between. So let's get started. In the description for this video, there's going to be a link for this folder right here, MCAT guide. So you're going to click on that. Again, I'll include that in the description below. This folder has 3 documents. It's going to have a fourth one with a link to this video once I finish it. But I'm just going to be going over what these are and what I did, so that hopefully, if you want to, you can kind of copy what I did. So if I open up this one, the MCAT schedule, I already have it open right here. This is an Excel document that details my schedule, pretty much everything I did. I did some a little different. This is what if I could go back and tell myself what to do, this is what I would have done. And so feel free to use, you can download all this if you go to File, and yeah, you can make a copy or download, and then you can edit it, change it yourself, do whatever you want with it, make it work for you. But essentially, I have the schedule split into two different sections here. This section in blue here, the first 6 weeks, is content review, and the second set here is this exam prep. And before I get into that, I want to talk about like what resources you're going to need, um, what you're, and how much it's going to cost. So you can see I have 3 different tabs down here. If you go over to the cost tab right there, you can see I have a cost breakdown, and what resources you need and how much it's going to cost you. So at least to do what I did, these are the resources you're going to need. You're going to need the Kaplan books, literally from any year will work. UWorld, and if you don't know what these things are, I'm going to talk about them more. The blueprint tests, AMC material. The MCAT itself costs $330. And then Anki is free, but Anki on iOS, if you have an iPhone, is $25. If you're on a budget and you're trying to save money, I've also included a budget breakdown. I think you could score really well, if not even better than I scored without some of these other, like some of these I don't think are totally necessary. So if you're on a budget for the Kaplan books, I would try to find them online, like for really cheap if used, or just find them. A lot of people give them away once they're done studying, so just try to find them that way. And again, from any year, pretty much will work. I think I used the 2020 books, something like that. UWorld, this one is expensive, but you need it. It is really good. It's worth it. And I believe this 300 is for 3 months of access. So don't actually buy it until you're actually going to start using it. You can also buy like 6 months of access in a year and so on. The AMC material, I think you can just buy the tests for 140. You don't have to buy the other stuff. I actually kind of wish I did this. I mostly just used their tests. I didn't really use too much other stuff. Um, I used like some of their cars stuff, but but you definitely need to buy the test. And then again, the MCAT itself is $330. I still think Anki iOS, if you have an iPhone, is still like super worth it. So anyway, that's all the resources you need. I'm gonna go back to this tab. And then before I talk a little bit more, if you go back to here, I have this PDF called MCAT Guide. If you open that up, this document is a 5-page document basically detailing everything I did. I'm going to be repeating a lot of what I've already written down here. I'm still just kind of making this video just to talk a little bit more about what I did. But honestly, I'm going to be repeating a lot of what's in here. So if you want to know kind of the summary of what I did, just check out this document right here. And it sort of explains some things like what sections are on the MCAT. There's 4 sections right here. And then I break it up into that 6-week content review and the 12 weeks exam prep. Okay, let me go back over here. So content review daily. What did I do for content review for these first 6 weeks? Well, the first thing I did, you can see, or let me explain these. what these are down here first, actually. So under down here below the schedule, I have linked pretty much all resources I used and all of the major popular resources. Pretty much everything you might need. I'm sure there's some other stuff, but this is like, for the most part, all the stuff that most people use. And then I've kind of color coded them. You can see here's things to do under content review, exam prep, and some other things. I'll get into all this. So again, in content review here, what I would do first is read two Kaplan chapters, and so you can see uh, out of the five Kaplan books, Biochem, Bio, Gen Chem, Physics, and OChem, read two chapters a day. You also notice there's two other Kaplan books. There's a Cars Kaplan book and a Psych Soc Kaplan book. I did not use either of those. I personally wouldn't bother with them, but I'm sure they can't help if you have the time for extra practice. So anyway, I would read two chapters a day, alternating books. So you can see this first week, I read Biochem chapters 1 and 2, Bio 1 and 2, Gen Chem, Physics, OChem, so on. Some of the books are harder than others, so you can move these around. Like if you work a lot on Wednesday, I'd recommend putting the OChem book there. The OChem book is the shortest book, so it's pretty easy. Versus like the biochem or the physics books are a little bit more dense. So maybe schedule those on days where you have a little more free time. The other thing that I would do during content review, if I can point your attention down to this content review daily, is Anki V2. This is an Anki deck that follows along with the Kaplan books exactly. I go into a lot of detail about Anki in another one of my videos. I'll include the link to that video, and it's just in my channel. So I won't cover Anki too much today because there's like a 30-minute very extensive comprehensive tutorial talking about Anki. But essentially, what I would do, like I would read Biochem's chapter 1 and 2, then I'd go do some Anki cards from the Anki deck relating to that. I would usually lag behind, like I was ahead in reading from where I was in Anki, simply because you don't want to overload yourself with too many cards. Um, I've seen people say that their Anki cards take them 5 or 6 hours a day. I do not think that's. I think it reaches a limit to where it's no longer like you kind of stop absorbing information. So don't push yourself too much. When I was studying, the max amount of cards I ever did one time, I think was 550 cards. My average was 300 to 400. It's definitely going to be more when you start out, but just don't let it eat up your entire day, even though it is like very important. I kept like I didn't even though I finished the Kaplan books in this period right here, I did not finish the Anki cards in this first 6 weeks. I kept going. I don't think I finished all of my Anki cards until maybe like week 14 or something down here. But once again, I talked a lot about it in this other video, and again, if you go back to this MCAT guide, this is also telling you everything I did. I linked Khan Academy here. They have an MCAT free prep course. If you need any extra help, I would definitely check them out. They're super helpful. I only use them whenever I needed extra help, mainly with physics. And yeah. The other thing, so I mentioned that I didn't read the Kaplan Psych Soc book. What I did do instead was this 300-page Psych Soc doc. What this is based off the Khan Academy Psych videos, and it's basically transcribed notes. It's a 300-page document, which is pretty long, but it details like literally everything that you're gonna see on the Psych Soc section of the MCAT. And what I did with this, I would usually aim for about like 5 pages a day or so. That was like a estimate. I don't know. If you do that, it should take you like about 2 months or so. The other thing I did during content review was Jack Weston Cars. I did one Cars passage every single day. They have a free daily Cars passage, and you can go and do all the previous daily ones. So you basically have an unlimited amount of Cars practice. I've heard of some people that do 3 a day. I did one a day, but then at the same time, my Cars section was out of the 4 sections, the Cars was my worst. So what do I know? And then Mr. Panko Psych Soc, this is another Anki deck that follows along with the 300-page Psych Soc document. And again, I talked about this a lot in my other video, so I'm not going to get into it too much. So feel free to reference that. And like I said, reference this MCAT guide here. Okay, that's mostly it for content review. The only other thing I wanted to touch on was you can see I put in this diagnostic. You don't have to take a diagnostic. I think it's really helpful to learn not just where you're at, but also sort of what you're going to get into, if that makes sense. I think it's good to kind of get a baseline of what the MCAT's like and how to get a feel for it. In terms of diagnostics, you can use one of the AMC ones. Blueprint has a free half-length one. I used a Kaplan one that came with the books. Yeah. And then you can see I have a day for catch up here, and then try to get a day of rest. I cannot emphasize a rest day enough. Like it will help a lot. Just set aside some time for rest. Okay, next section would be the exam prep, and that is the next 12 weeks that you see right here. And again, feel free to change this schedule how you can download a copy and change it how you want. You can see in my exam prep daily, I have a few different links. The first and the biggest one you can see here is UWorld. If you don't know what UWorld is, it's a question bank with about 2,500 to 3,000 questions. Um, Based on the MCAT, it's extremely useful. I think UWorld and Anki are like the two best things I did to study for the MCAT. UWorld, their questions are harder than the real thing, so keep that in mind. But their explanations are just so, I think, so well done and very simple and easy to understand. I saw questions almost exactly on my real test, like from UWorld. Not exactly, but very like similar, like the same concepts. Um, so if you do UWorld like 4 days a week and you aim for 50 to 60 questions per day, you should be able to get through the whole question bank. I didn't get through the whole thing when I did it. I got it about 60% through. I wish I had done the whole thing. I think you should definitely aim for that. Don't burn yourself out, but if you can, it's definitely like well worth it. And once again, if you want to follow along in the guide and want a little bit more information, you can see I've detailed all these things right here. I kept doing Anki through my exam prep, so Anking and Mr. Panko, as well as the 300-page Psych Soc document, and then I kept doing Jack Weston cars, and then at some point, I don't remember the exact point, I switched over to AMC cars just to switch it up and get a little more of the AMC's practice. And so on. So yeah, this was a lot of UWorld, as you can see. It's just a super helpful resource. You can see in green here, I have this AMC prep, and what these are taking full-length exams. That's probably one of the best ways you can study and prepare for the MCAT is these full-length exams. And I took a total of, I think 11 or something like that. What I did 4 Blueprint exams. Blueprint is the third party exam. And then I did 6 of the AMC's exams, and then also the diagnostic, of course. Um, I think the doing the Blueprint ones was helpful, but if you're on a budget or you're on a time constraint or something else, I don't think these are uh, like totally necessary. I don't think you have to do these. What is very necessary and you absolutely should do is all 6 AMC full lengths. Especially sample is a little I thought it was easier. I don't think it was super representative, but especially like full length 4 and 5, um, those are like the most of what you're gonna see on the real deal. Um, so yeah, just definitely do at least those 6. And then the whole next day after I take a test, I would review that whole test, go over what I got wrong, um, and sort of the concepts that I needed to work on, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And then you can see up into week 18, or again, you can extend or shorten this schedule however you want. I talk a little bit more about that in my guide. 2 days before the test, I reviewed some just like high yield stuff, didn't study it all the day before, took the real thing, and then crashed. You can see I have some other links over here. Some of these are just repeated, like Kaplan, Khan Academy, um, the Psych Doc, Jack Weston, Blueprint, whoops, AMC Prep, UWorld, Anki tutorial, that's the Anking's Anki tutorial on how to set up Anki. I also have my own, which I'm going to put in this document, and I'll have link below, so definitely check that out. I have the MCAT subreddit and the Anki MCAT subreddit. Those are really useful. Links to the decks I used, some other good resources. I didn't necessarily use these, but they're still good. These are some of Miles Down resources. And then I read the 330-page Psych Soc doc. There's also 100-page and 86-page versions if you want those. And then some other Anki decks that I didn't use. I didn't use the Jack Sparrow or the Miles Down deck. I used the On Kings deck, which is based off Miles Down, but whatever. But a lot of people really like these two decks. Um, so I just linked those just in case you'd rather do those. If you don't know what the difference is, On King's deck is based on the Miles Down deck, plus it has like another like 2,000 cards or something, so it's just a lot extra. And then the Jack Sparrow deck, I've never used this one, but from what I've heard, it's really comprehensive. So if you're lacking in a lot of content, this might be a good one. And then for people who say they're good on content, I've heard them say that this is just a little too many cards. Um, so yeah, totally up to you. You probably can't go wrong really with any of them. But yeah, this is my schedule with links to all resources. And again, download this, change it as you want. I hope it's very useful. You can see I have one more tab on here, the full length scores. Here you can track your full length scores, so you can put the date when you took them, what you got on each section, and then the total. Hopefully here you can see an upward trend in progress. At least that's the hope, right? And maybe it'll highlight, weaknesses if you need to target cars or psych-soc or whatever. The other thing that's in this folder is this MCAT review questions template. And so every time I did UWorld and every time I did a full length, I would review it. And I can't emphasize enough how important that is. Just practicing those things is great, but if you don't go over what you got right and wrong, more importantly, what you got wrong, then you're not going to learn anything from it. So that's really important to do. So you can see in this document, I have these different tabs at the bottom that are separated by subject, so bio, psych, soc, so on, and then the full lengths, AMC, full length 1, 2, 3. And so when you finish UWorld, let's say you just did a UWorld bio section, I have section here, so you can put UWorld or bio, whatever. The date you did it, what's the question? So like an example, gram-positive and negative both have blank layer of peptidoglycan. Answer, one layer. Then I put any tips or any other diagrams, things like that. And I did the same with my full lengths. So feel free to download this and use it as well. And then once I'd reviewed UWorld or my full lengths or whatever, I would then copy and paste this into Anki. I would make an Anki card out of this, and I had like I made my own deck based on what I got right and wrong. And I talk a little bit more about this in my MCAT guide here, so definitely feel free to take a look at that. In my MCAT guide here, I just have some important kind of extra details. You know, everybody's different, so change this up however you want. I was not in school while I studied. I was working about 20 to 30 hours. And so I think estimate however long you need to study for the MCAT and then add on a few weeks, if not more, if you're like in school. Um, I think having that buffer, I ended up pushing back my test by 2 weeks, and I'm so glad that I did. You can see in my schedule, this is obviously an 18 week. If you're not working, no school, you could probably shorten this. If you're working and have school, you could probably lengthen it, whatever you want to do. The MCAT subreddit is really useful. Anking and Anki. Anki is so important. Can't emphasize it enough. Anki has an Anki tutorial, and then I made my own, which again I'll include. I already mentioned this, but take breaks. It's really important. And then the other thing you might notice that's missing from my schedule is the AMC section banks. I didn't really like these because I think the AMC's explanations aren't good, but I know a lot of people swear by these and say they're some of the best material out there. So if you want to do them, definitely go for it. I personally didn't, but uh, I'm I'm sure doing them cannot hurt you. That's for sure. Okay, that is about everything that I did. If you want some more details or kind of what a lot of I repeated is in this MCAT guide here, so feel free to read that. I also have my Anki settings down here, which I went over in another video. With that being said, I hope you find this folder with all these documents and this video really helpful. I'm open to any questions. If feel free to ask me any questions if you guys need any help. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.